go ahead and get started. Um, I'm very excited for season 9, especially with Buck, because one of my favorite things about Buck is how he's always like searching for something for himself. And so I'm wondering if there is anything in season 9 that he's searching for so far.
I think as we come back into the season, I think he's searching for familiarity. I think it's something that he's struggling with at the top of the season. Obviously, the 118 is in a new place
Mhm.
and finding its feet again, which means a restructuring. We have Chimney in as the interim captain. We have Hen and Eddie partnered up, and then Buck and Ravi. And I think Buck is just trying to find something that feels familiar and feels like he recognizes it because there's so much change around him.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of a change that is occurring, the last we saw of him, he was in between homes.
Mhm.
What is that particular search like, and like what do you think he's looking for in terms of a home or house?
Yeah, so we actually don't see the process of him looking within the show, but he will have a new house.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a house. It's no longer an apartment. So he's moved on up in the world.
Yeah,
And I like it because the apartment that he was in for so long, I was kind of cold and
yeah,
very minimalist feeling. And now we find him in a house that has a lot more character. It's decorated. It to me, it feels a lot more Buck.
yeah,
And I think that's a nice progression.
yeah. That's really exciting too, because I feel like his previous places always were found by someone else, or like
Hmm.
he had to. The situation with Eddie's house was more like, oh, I have to do this because
Sure.
to help out my friend. So
Yeah,
very,
no, that's true. I never really thought about that. Because yeah, the original apartment, he was looking for it with Ali at the time. Yes. So no, this is the first one. You're right. He has stepped into purely on his own, and I think there's something to be said for that because, as I say, this one feels a lot more uh conducive to who he is.
mhm, that's exciting. Okay, we're now heading into the third season of Buck being an out bisexual man, though he has not said the word bisexual yet. And he seems to have in season 8 seemed to like not be sure of his dating pool now that he's
Hmm.
single. Is that like an exploration that he's still like trying to figure out in terms of what like being bisexual means to him?
Yeah, I think and this is obviously just me putting this onto the character because, as you say, he has like I think he considers himself bisexual.
Yeah.
I know it hasn't explicitly been stated in those words, but I think, and as we've gone through this season, we'll get more of an opportunity to see it. He speaks about it in terms of being bisexual,
Yeah.
um, and I don't think there's any aversion to using the word, and I'm sure he will at some point. But yeah, he's certainly knows now that that is who he is and that is a part of who he is, and he's not shy about it. He's still just maybe trying to figure a few things out, but I
Yeah.
actually love that aspect of the story, that he has never been shy about it. There wasn't this big, oh no, what does this mean for who I am?
Mhm.
Is that my life been a lie or anything like that? He just was pretty okay with it, and I think it's nice to see that story being told.
Yeah, it was very refreshing the way like especially 704 through 706 played out in terms of that journey for him. So,
And the others around him as well. Nobody was like, wait, what? Everyone was just like, okay, cool, great.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
for you. You know?
Yeah, very refreshing. Um in 8:15, the second part of the Contagion episode, uh Buck and Tommy left things a little like open-ended. Um where might we find them heading into season 9?
Yeah, that was the last interaction we saw of them, right? Because I don't think they actually interacted in the
Yeah.
funeral episode. And I think Tommy's gonna have always been a huge part of Buck's life and a hugely important character. What an incredible step that he was a part of for Buck. And then when I say that, I mean that in terms of coming out, but then also, you know, obviously Bobby
Hmm.
not saved, but he was the point when Tommy was involved in that story was to save Chimney, and he was obviously instrumental in the saving of Chimney. So I think, there's always going to be a debt of gratitude that Buck holds for Tommy, and
Hmm.
you know, there's always going to be a love there because he showed up for him even when they weren't in a great place.
Yeah. Speaking of 8:15, I'm going back to 8:15 because I love the helicopter chase mostly.
Uh-huh.
But I loved how like it mixed a big action sequence with a big like emotional stakes too between Buck and Tommy. Can you talk a little bit about like what it was like filming such a big like set piece like that along with the emotional stakes that were included?
I think that's something that 911 has always done very well is mix the big and the small or the big and the intimate.
Hmm.
Uh, for me, the spectacle aspect of the show doesn't mean anything without the character relationships and the dynamics within it. You have to care about the people. That's where the stakes come from. So yeah, it was pretty amazing to film that stuff and be around it. And they were flying these helicopters around. I'm gonna forget the name of the stadium or the arena that they were flying them around, but we
Hmm.
were flying helicopters. We weren't in them.
Yeah.
We obviously filmed that portion in a much more contained environment. But yeah, that, as I say, is the magic of the show, is being able to mix the big and the small and
Hmm.
make and find the little moments that are meaningful between the characters amongst the big spectacle.
Hmm. I think you touched on this a little bit, but with Bobby gone, like what does the new dynamics in the 118 look like? Especially, I'm mostly like wondering about Chimney as the captain now. Well,
Yeah, so Chimney he's interim captain.
yeah, interim captain, yeah.
And he himself is somebody that is still coming to grips with that.
Hmm.
You know, obviously Bobby was close to all of us, and
Hmm.
I think there's some inner turmoil for Chimney of, am I right to step into this role? Am I deserving to step into this role? But from the rest of the 118, it's yes, of course you are. You can lead us. You're every bit as deserving. You're a leader already in many senses. So yeah, so there's only encouragement coming from the rest of the 118.
Okay, I have one more question, and it's about space because I'm very excited about space. As Hen and Athena, as we saw in the trailer earlier today, take to the stars, what will Buck's role be in this, and like, what are you excited about this, these episodes of the opening emergency?
Yeah, so while they are up in space, we have this geomagnetic storm going on, which is also causing a lot of issues down on Earth. So it's very much two storylines going on, right? They're dealing with what they're dealing with up in space, but we are running around and dealing with the fallout on Earth. And there are some really great emergencies.
Mhm.
Kind of as we just discussed, there are some big ones and some smaller ones. There are some deeper ones and some kind of wackier ones that we get to deal with. So we're kind of in a very classic 911 episode down on Earth, while they're doing their very different space episode at the same time.
Did you ever think that 911 would eventually go to space?
So no, but years ago, probably season 3 or 4,
Hmm.
me and Pete used to joke about, we're going to run out of big emergencies to start the season at one point. And the thing we always used to say was we were off by one season because we used to say, by the time we get to season 8, we're going to be stood on top of the fire trucks fighting aliens with our hoses. So, we weren't that far off.
You weren't, no. And I guess that if that pattern holds, then at some point there will be aliens.
We shall see. We'll
Well,
see.
I hope
We'll
so.
see if we come back for one more. Maybe that'll be the move.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all I had for you, Oliver. It was very nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time.